Hello friends, welcome. I'm Commissar Marek and today we are going to take a look at a new topic in Season 3, Augustus, and it applies for Julius as well, as most of these videos do, because Augustus did not actually do any comprehensive changes to this specific feature, and that is favor and how to appease the emperor. Now, something to be said first and foremost is that Season 3 is not overly accurate game regarding history or accuracy, so most of the missions you will be playing in the vanilla campaign are actually set during a Republican Rome, but there is an emperor for some reason, not the Senate. I guess, the devs didn't necessarily do like a whole bunch of research, but they did enough so that the game feels like you learned something new as a kid, but as an adult, if you know something about Roman history, oftentimes if you look hard enough, you will find plot holes, and many of them. So I'm not gonna be pointing that out anymore. I'm just telling you right now, because some people do care about this sort of stuff. And so, in each mission, there is an emperor you need to appease, and he has an opinion of you, and this opinion is measured in a rating that's called favor. Favor can be from 100 up to 0, and it cannot go below 0, it can go above 100. Some missions will require you to achieve certain amount of favor to complete the map. If it is set to 100, it means that you need to hold the highest favor possible. That means that constant gifts and fulfilling requests can be very helpful to help you with fulfilling that rating. Something to note for map makers is that if you set a condition in the scenario editor for survival time, which means city needs to hold ratings that you specify, and it needs to hold them for years, what's gonna happen if you set it to 100 favor required is that it's gonna be, for example, you start at 0 AD, the city is gonna do its thing and it needs to survive until 30 AD. It's gonna happen at 29 AD is player will have 100 favor and all that with those things, but there is a bleed effect for favor each year. In January, you lose favor with the emperor. There's no way not to lose favor with the emperor from this, apart if you use custom events for it, but that's just not really taken into consideration here. What happens is the governor will advance into year 30, and his favor is gonna go from 100 to either 99 or 98, depending on his setting on the personal salary, but it's always gonna reduce itself by at least 1 point, meaning if you set victory condition to be survival time, and you've also set favor requirement to be 100, now it's impossible because he doesn't have the 100 favor, even though he had it the last year, and now he instantly loses because the survival time means you need to survive, and then you need to also, it's a timer. But in more ways than one. It's not just within this time frame. It's hold the ratings for this period of time and then have exactly as much as you need or you lose. So that's why that's not really much used, but that's besides the point. That's just something for map makers to cover. When talking about favor, as I mentioned, it can go from 0 up to 100. These things will impact how the emperor behaves towards you. So each map, usually you start with 40 favor at the start, and you also are granted personal salary. This is in the advisors. You've got your imperial advisor. You can go here and see this is your rank, and this is what you are paying yourself. Okay, you click on this, you can pay yourself a different salary. Why would you want to do this? Well, you get more money, but this money doesn't come from nothing. It comes from the city's coffers. Each month the city will pay you the salary you charge yourself from the city's coffers. So that's what money you have available for building things. Okay, not just that, but in the vanilla campaign, the whole favor mechanic is actually kind of weird how it works, because it's very counterintuitive. The further you go into the campaign, the higher rank you acquire, and then the easier it is to manage the favor, even to a point where you could carry over funds from different missions and then gift money to the city, so that you start with like 20,000 on some of the difficult missions late game. In the Conquer, that's no longer the possibility, but let's not delve into that. What you want to talk about is why would you want to change this rating? Well, you could charge yourself a bigger salary to be able to send more gifts, which I'm gonna talk about gifts in a minute, but it carries repercussions. If you charge yourself a higher salary than you are due, Caesar will take an account of how much money you've given yourself throughout the year, and if it exceeds what you are supposed to be getting, he will get angry. And how much angry depends on the difficulty level. I'll put on the screen right now. Sam gave me a little bit of a breakdown of how severe the favor repercussions are depending on difficulty, and so it can be pretty severe. And also, as much as like, the more you embezzle, basically, the more angry he gets, and that can actually be really bad for you. Therefore, it's really not viable to do this. It was viable in vanilla. You could just cheese the system, where even on very low salaries you could just, take the hit from his anger, but be able to constantly give him very large gifts, and that would make him happy overall without any issues. In Augustus, that's no longer the case. So we know that we are an engineer, meaning that if we take a look, we could pay ourselves 5 denarii per month, which is 60 denarii per year, right? And so, well, that's great, isn't it? But what it means, if you pay yourself the salary that your rank allows, you will actually lose 2 favor per year. As I said earlier, in January each year, Caesar's gonna take a look at how much you charge yourself, and if you charge yourself exactly how much you are allowed, you will lose 2 favor passively, just for being a governor running the city, right? You can reduce this to losing only -1 favor, and that is by paying yourself a lesser salary, which would be a clerk in this instance. That's why it's set to a clerk, because we don't want to lose favor. Why do we care about this money? Well, we can send gifts, which provide a favor boost to us. Either you have modest gifts, generous gifts, or lavish gifts. And I'm gonna put a chart again on the screen right now that's gonna show you how efficient these gifts are. Take a note that if you send multiple gifts in a period of 12 months, you will not get as much favor, to a diminishing effect where Caesar will eventually stop caring about more gifts in that time frame. And so you should only send another gift, usually, when this says time since last gift is 12 months or more. Then you can send another and get the full benefit of it. Generally, you get 3 for the modest one, 5 for a generous one, and plus 10 favor for the lavish one. There's something to be said about these get more expensive as you accumulate more money. Base price is a little bit lower than this. I'm gonna show you the chart again. It's outlined that as you gain more and more personal savings, you actually get, the gifts will become more expensive to send. So each time you have 200, you should probably send expensive gift if you can, so that you min-max the thing. Alternatively, you could also min-max it with generous gifts. That's actually even better, but more micro-intensive, depending on what your salary is. Most custom maps will only give you maximum up to +8. Usually anything above that is a bit too easy to manage the favor with, and so that's not what usually happens. Also, Caesar can request from you, he can request goods as well as troops. When he requests goods, it can also be money in Augustus. In Julius it was only goods. Now he can also ask for money in Augustus. So something to note about these requests. These requests don't give you the same amount of favor, it depending what the map maker has set. It could also be that you get +2 favor, but you could also get +20. So depending on what he written in the events, that's what the favor gain will be from the requests. And there are also now possible repeating requests, where you will never run out of requests if you play a map. If mapmaker has taken his time, he can now set up like 4 repeating requests that are gonna constantly repeat when you even exceed the time frame of the mission, where he didn't plan any extra events after like 40 years. You will still be able to get these. That was not the case in Julius. Eventually you would be run out of requests and invasions, and you're just sitting there stuck. You could still micro the gifts, as I said. So like making sure you constantly send a gift when it's 12 months since the last one. If you really care about raising favor, that's how you would do it to get past it. But it was very tedious. It's very easy to forget when you're planning the city, doing other things. Something to note, as I said, Caesar can also request, so with the request, he can also request like multiple things per year, and all the requests will be listed here. If you miss a deadline, it's gonna display how long do you have until that request is due. If you miss that, he's gonna get a little bit angry, and you will lose a little bit of favor, usually -1, -2, -3, something like that. And then you get another extension, okay? If you fail that, then you suffer the full penalty for it, and that's usually -5, something like that. Again, set by the map maker, right? So that's how requests work. Good requests usually push you towards a certain industry, so, you know, Caesar requests olives, and suddenly a new route for olives opens up later, or price rises on the olives, or things like that. So it feels like it's natural and you're pushed towards something that's worthwhile doing. Same as with manufactured goods. You should not request imported goods in large quantities. Usually it's not a good idea unless it's a very specific map with a very specific set of challenges and rules. Usually it's not a good idea to do that, and so most maps will not ask you for excessive amounts of imports, and they also usually only ask for up to 32 units, unless it's food, because in Augustus food can be taken for requests from granaries as well, if you have that on as a setting, meaning that you can actually, naturally have like 100 wheat in the city, and that could be expected by the map maker for you to have that, so we can ask for that much. Something else is with these requests, as I said, Caesar can also ask for troops. You would go into your military and set empire service for your legions. I covered how strong different units are in my military video. All you need to know about military, specifically, that's what it's called. If you want to know how strong a different kind of unit is in dealing with saving distant Roman cities, you can watch that video. So for the requests, you just, set them to be serving the empire, and this does nothing by itself. Then you also need to go to your imperial advisor, see the request for troops, and click on it, and then it's gonna ask you to dispatch the troops, and you say yes, and they'll go. And on the map itself, you will actually see a distant city, which would usually be a teal flag, and you will see barbarians coming from somewhere like here. And when they do, your troops will also spawn outside the city. You see a little legionary, and he's gonna go to save the city, and the barbarians will advance toward the city. You are given enough time to do it, but if you neglect it for a period of time, it's possible your troops will not arrive in time. And there are several different outcomes for what's gonna happen with the saving distant Roman city. Option 1, your troops arrive in time and crush the enemy army, which is a numbers comparison. How strong is your army you sent, how strong is the barbarians attacking the city. If your troops prevailed, they can take casualties, morale damage, the rest of them will return to the city, and you gain favor. You get a big pile. I think it's a 50 favor, but I'm gonna put on the screen right now if I'm wrong. I could be wrong. It's a big pile of favor you get for saving distant Roman city. On top of it, you also get a free triumphant arch to be built within your city for free anywhere you want. It's like a large statue, 3x3 structure, very good desirability. It's the best thing for desirability you can get. Very powerful. And that's what you get for saving distant Roman city. A lot of favor, triumphant arch. Second option, you fail to mount enough troops for the relieving, meaning your army gets defeated. The barbarians win. You suffer favor loss, and your army gets crushed, but it's moderate favor loss. You only lose like, I will put it on the screen if I find the numbers for it. I think it's like -10, -15, or -20, something like that, for if your army gets crushed. Third option, obviously with the second one, you don't get the triumphant arch if you lose, okay? And the city itself will get relieved eventually by someone else, and that's just a pop-up that's gonna say city has been relieved. But that's your participation. You cannot send another army if you failed. Third option, you sent troops, but they didn't arrive in time. Caesar's gonna get mad again. You will suffer favor penalty, but you will not lose any troops, and the troops that were on their way will come back to the city after a period of time. They arrive from, they also leave, they always go to the empire, I think, and then they come from road to Rome. So they go to the blue flag. When they exit the city, they come back from the red flag where immigrants arrive from. Okay, and yeah, so your troops, the option where you failed to reach the city in time, you suffer moderate favor penalty, but it's not devastating usually. What can happen if you neglect it completely, though, is that Caesar will get very upset, and that's the case where you completely ignored it. You didn't even bother to send a unit out, and so the city got destroyed, and you didn't even twitch a finger, okay? And Caesar's gonna get very upset about that. He's gonna call you a traitor, and that's gonna incur a massive favor penalty. I'm gonna put on the screen if I know the number exactly, but I'll try to avoid this. What you can do if your army is small and you just don't know, if like you cannot save the city, you know you wouldn't be able to. What you can do is just at the last second, before the request runs out, send out, well, don't leave it on last month, usually at least 2, because the troops need to leave the map for that to count. Okay, so send 1 unit, even the understrength javelin unit that has like 1 guy, send them out, and they will not reach the city in time, but it's gonna at least see that, oh, you tried. It's not that you completely abandoned it, okay? Because that's the worst outcome. Unless you want Caesar to invade you, try to avoid that. That's what I didn't mention yet, is that the favor itself has actually a mechanic where it's tied to debt, mostly, and that's what was originally designed in the game, because the Season 3 is a game about management and city building, and not necessarily a whole bunch of military stuff. And so the original developers expected someone who would fail at something like this would be someone who didn't manage their city properly rather than the military itself. And so he always will tell you that he's mostly displeased. When he fires you, he's gonna show you a cinematic that you've been sold as a slave to the galleys, and he's gonna tell you, I'm mostly displeased and you mismanage the funds of the city. Which, you know, in many cases it could be military on custom maps that caused it, and your money was completely fine, but just, you know, that's what the original devs had in mind for the game to be centered around mostly. And so, as I said, it's also centered around debt. So, your budget for the city, if it's in the white, it's fine. You pay tribute each year. I didn't really mention this. I think many people don't really know that this is a thing. So Caesar will take a look each year at your income, right? What your city has made as money from taxes, from trade, from events, if there's an event that gives you money. And then he's gonna go and charge you extra percentage for you paying him money just to allow you to run the city. And if you are in debt at the end of the year, that's a problem, because he will get upset about that a lot. He also will still take the money, putting you more into debt, and that's what makes him angry, okay? So try to avoid being in debt towards the end of the year, if you can. Sorry for that pop-up. Let's take a look at the finances advisor, okay? So let's take a look. We've got last year, this is our trade receipts, this is how much money we made last year, 10,290 denarii. And so this was our total income. We don't actually charge any taxes. We paid 3,113 denarii in wages. We've built stuff that cost us 1,700 denarii. We paid 1,800 levy, and we paid ourselves a little bit of salary. So total expenses were 7,500, but that's also accounting this. Tribute, interest. Interest is when you are in debt, you actually incur 10% penalty for your the debt. It keeps rising for 10% each month. It could be a year, I don't know, but it is bad. If you are in debt, the interest is gonna keep climbing, right? If you are over 5,000 denarii in debt, you cannot build more structures or spend more money like that, because you run out of credit with the Senate, and you cannot build any more stuff. You can still juggle your wages and taxes though, so that can still be a thing, but keep in mind that you cannot even remove things. If you are out of credit, it's not gonna even allow you to remove stuff, because it costs a little bit of denarii to erase things. So that can be really bad. Try to avoid that if possible. And so you see that we made, you know, over 10,000 and he charged me 900 in tribute. That's what he took, personally. That's not little, considering what we have to work with. That's what he does. He just takes part of your income as interest, or as tribute, okay? And that doesn't actually give you any favor, it's just, he takes it, that's the standard treatment, and if you fail to provide that, he's gonna get mad, and you'll lose more favor on the end of the year than you would normally lose. As I mentioned at the start, you lose -1 or -2 because of your salary, but you can also lose more if you didn't pay your tribute or if you are in debt. If your city is in debt, I'm gonna put on the screen right now a chart from Sam again, where he explains numbers behind debt and what causes favor loss. That is a first bailout. The first time your city runs out of money, you will be given a set amount of money as a backup funds that Caesar is gonna provide you for free, and he doesn't actually get mad. It doesn't reduce favor. You are given a bailout, more money. The second time it happens, he gets mad, and then if you are in debt for a prolonged period of time, I think it's 2 years in one segment, meaning you didn't go out of debt in those 2 years, he gets very upset, and that's gonna drop your favor massively. After that, if you are still in debt, regardless of what your favor is, if you, for example, let's say a scenario, right? So you started the city, you've built something, you went into debt. You've been in debt for 2 years. Then your favor was around, 20, 30. You went out of that. Now your favor is still at 20 or 30. You've been building more stuff, and then you played the mat. You managed to get your favor up to 90. After this, you went into debt again because of some reason, and you stayed in debt for 2 years in one segment. What happens now is Caesar will get very upset, and he's gonna send you a letter. Basically, he's gonna be very upset, and he's gonna drop your favor from, regardless of what it is, even if it's 99, even if it's 100, he's gonna nuke that favor to 10, and he's gonna invade you. In a year's time, legions will arrive from the road from Rome, which is the red flag. He's gonna arrive here, and he's gonna try to destroy the city. And they will go exclusively for housing, and I'm gonna show you how many troops Caesar sends, because it's specific. First, it's like 3 legions. I'm gonna put it on the screen if I find the numbers for it. And so these legionaries, Caesar's legionaries, are actually very powerful. I can put a chart here for how they compare with your legionaries. They are very strong, and they will try to destroy the city. This can also coincide with barbarian attacks, and to my knowledge, for now, in Augustus, it was like this in Julius, whatever, by the way. Caesar troops do actually cooperate with barbarians. If they invade you at the same time, they will cooperate in raising the city. Something else? Yeah, so if your favor dropped to 10 from him being upset, and he sends the letter that his legions will invade in a year, what happens is you can also send him a gift, and then try to send some sort of request he asks for. He will still keep asking you for things. And if you do these things, if the map has the requests, that is, you send him a gift, you are nice, you don't go into debt anymore, you raise your favor above, I don't know this certain threshold, it's like 25 favor, maybe it's 23, something like that. If you get your favor from the 10 to 20-ish in a year's time, before those legions arrive, what happens is they will invade. And if you don't fight them immediately, that is, you should not fight them immediately. Just let them deploy. They'll pull out, they'll form right here, and then you will get a message from the centurion. Caesar has changed his mind and we are leaving. And that's what they will do, and they'll leave you alone. But the moment you go below 10 favor again, he's not gonna warn you again. He's just gonna invade without any message, so you need to be careful about favor from that point on, okay? Also, he will keep sending troops like this, and the attacks get larger each time as Caesar's army invades. It gets larger. If you defeat a Caesar's force, you get +10 favor each time, and it's called Emperor's Respect, and that's a message that's gonna pop up that he respects that you've beaten his guys, and he's actually gonna, eventually, when you keep beating his troops, he's gonna send a special message, which you could find out for yourself. I'm not gonna spoil it here, but if you play a civil war scenario where you keep fighting Caesar, you can end up in a situation where you've defeated so many troops that he's gonna send a special message to you. Okay? So read them, don't just right-click them off usually. Yeah, be careful about that, that's a little bad. If you get invaded by Caesar, it can be absolutely devastating. So, we talked about basically everything that there is to know about favor. Most maps keep this around 80 requirement. Sometimes they will have 100, but you know, if you need to grind it up, constantly send gifts whenever you have this at 12 months or more, and do all of the quests you can, and try to save any distant Roman cities that are possible. I've been told that there's also an event you can use from your Colosseum. If you build a Colosseum, you can then host imperial games that are gonna give you favor for a period of 1 year, and it generates +2 per month for a year for 12 months. And when you select this option to host those games, you are charged for personal salary though, so you need to decide if it's worth it. If you have a Colosseum, maybe it is. You can use that to host the games. In the Colosseum itself, you right-click the Colosseum. I don't know if I have a map that has one. Maybe let's take a look. Should have maybe looked at that. Okay, this is... yeah, there we go. So, hold games. And naval games, Roman games, yes. Oh, it scales with the city size, by the way. So the larger the city, the more it costs. 2,900 denarii of personal funds. That's, yeah, that's like 14 lavish gifts, meaning that you would get 140 favor for doing those gifts instead if you had the time. 14 years to send each one, each 12 months. But this is gonna generate favor for you if you do that. And what happens is that it will take a little bit of time to wind up before the games start, before they prepare them, and then when they start, you get the benefit of those games for a year. It's a bit of a meme thing. I didn't even want to mention this, but it's part of the game. The devs wanted it. It's, you know, more of a flavor thing in the vanilla campaign, perhaps, but for a practical reason, you are not gonna end up getting more than you would if you just kept gifting him. Okay, if you end up having this kind of money for personal salary, it's bad anyway, because you should have been microing the gifts. So, in any case, that's gonna be everything. So thank you for watching, and see you around. Bye.